Good morning, Jill Wine-Banks. Are you there?
Good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. I just got diagnosed with COVID yesterday.
Hey, I got a real bad connection. I'm having trouble hearing you. You're not loud.
I said I was diagnosed with COVID yesterday.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh,
But good morning.
No. How are your symptoms?
I just have lost smell and taste, and that's it so far. But Chris and Travis also have it. So hi.
All that happened to you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, honey. What's that?
Do you know how you were exposed?
Yes, on the way back from seeing my 98-year-old mom, who is not doing well in North Carolina. I took a gamble and I lost.
Oh, no.
Yep. I tested 6 times, and on the 6th time, my luck did not hold. But, yeah, I know.
A lesson to everyone.
Yeah.
You recovered very fast.
Thank you, honey.
Your mother as well.
No, my mother's not well, but that's why I felt like I had to go. But you know what, Jill, I said that it is a cautionary tale because, COVID doesn't care what your emergency is. And so, that's partially why we are where we are. So let's move on to the general treason, shall we?
Sure. That's a good subject.
I mean, I just said, Jill, how many times can someone say worse than Watergate, right? Carl Bernstein said it again about these Trump tapes. I mean, I don't know if you listened to the whole thing. It is, it's even more stomach churning, I think, than Ukraine, isn't it?
It is worse in some ways because it really strikes at the heart of our system, which is that the people vote, their votes are counted, and the winner is whoever got the most votes. That's the most fundamental element of democracy. On the other hand, asking a foreign power to intervene in a way that you think will have the same impact, which is to affect the outcome of the votes, is the same as happened in Ukraine. He asked for the president of Ukraine to announce an investigation, not the fact that there was some evidence found, just announce that there's an investigation. And that way people will not vote for Biden. So that's sort of, they're kind of very similar, I would say.
Well, I mean, Jill, obviously there's people that are saying if this isn't an impeachable offense, I don't know what is, but it's also a crime. I mean, and I get it that there's only 2 weeks left, but how do we function as a country of laws with just even this, listening to the president commit a crime? I mean, how do we handle this, in your opinion, Jill?
Okay, so I think it's probably impeachable. I hate to be the one to say this, but I have listened to the full the full tape, and reviewed the transcript, and there are a lot of potential threats in it. There's more than even that is all of the misrepresentations, all of the conspiracy theories, all of the things, but whether it actually would be a prosecutable crime as opposed to an impeachable offense, I think we need a little bit more evidence. Clearly, he's trying to convince the Secretary of State that he won and that all he has to do is review enough votes to show that at least 11,799, which is what he claims the margin was, although AP says it's over 12,000. But okay, so he's under the impression that he lost by 11,799. He needs 11,700 or 800 votes. 11,800 votes is what would make him the winner of Georgia, which even if he won, he wouldn't be the president. He'd have to win a lot more states.
Right.
Well, I mean, the Electoral College by a bigger margin than
But
60
Jill,
votes.
isn't this prosecutable? Let's start in the state of Georgia. I mean, is this not, threatening an election official? I mean, what are the actual legal grounds?
Well, the question is, what did he say that was a real threat? He did say, there could, people won't vote and no one's going to like you, which means no one's going to vote for you. There's some very, he does threaten, it is a criminal offense for you. This is Trump saying to the Secretary of State, it's a criminal offense for you. That is a big risk to you and Ryan and your lawyer. You couldn't let that happen. I'm letting you know. I just want to find 11,000, this time he says 780 votes. It is all we need to overcome the margin of loss. Many think it wasn't a mistake, it was criminal. In other words, you didn't miscount, you deliberately criminally did this. So I think you could read into that a threat that there would be a criminal prosecution, which isn't a real meaningful threat given that in 2 weeks he'll be out of office. He can't make that happen.
I mean, but Jill, isn't an attempt at a crime still a crime?
The sound is off again.
Oh, I said, isn't an attempt at a crime still a crime?
Yes, of course. Yes,
Yeah.
An attempt at a crime is. It doesn't matter that you don't really have the power to do it. It's still, it could be a crime. There are many potential crimes in the things he said. And the worst of it is, of course, this is getting more attention to all of the fake claims that he starts out the conversation. And by the way, in an hour conversation, almost the only speaker is Donald Trump. And he goes through, he says, there are forged signatures. There's about 100,000. There's 50s of thousands who were told they couldn't vote because they had already voted. And he said, it's way more than the 11,779 votes. There are hundreds of thousands of ballots that were dropped. CPAs have given this a review. Who cares that CPAs have reviewed it? We only lost by 11,799. 4,502 voted who weren't on the registers. 18,325 voted from a vacant address. I mean, he just goes out. You have Ruby Freeman, a name that I don't know how many of your listeners have ever heard, but if you Google Ruby Freeman, you will find on numerous right-wing websites her name. You will not find it in any legitimate sources.
Yeah.
She was a poll worker who they have made into the biggest scammer in history, and that she was stuffing ballots into a box 3 times for each one. And, I mean, he goes on with all these specific numbers of out-of-state voters. And then Brad Raffensperger pushes back on all of these. He says, wait a minute, we investigated that, and all of those out-of-state voters moved back in years ago.
Yeah, well, it's all nonsense. Well, Jill, let's get to the larger picture of the Republican Party, because that's the big difference you and I have talked about. You know, I was just reading a story that my mom gave me about my dad interrogating Goering when he was a Nuremberg prosecutor, and that, his running mate Goldwater was the person that told Nixon it was time to go. I mean, Amy Klobuchar tweeted, a group of my Republican colleagues claiming they want an additional federal commission to supersede election results when votes have already been counted, recounted, litigated, state certified amounts to nothing more than an attempt to subvert the will of voters. And you said it's a threat that will fail, but will do lasting damage to our country, democracy, and the integrity of our elections. To me, Jill, that's why we have got to prosecute. Our long national nightmare will not be over until we do, in my opinion. Do you agree?
I absolutely, totally agree. I was hesitant, as you may know, at first, thinking that, okay, let's just move on and let Biden work on healing the nation. I do not believe there is any chance of healing anymore. And I believe that ignoring the crimes that Donald Trump has committed and not prosecuting him is a big mistake, that it will only send a message. I think maybe if we had prosecuted Nixon, Trump would have been on warning and wouldn't have done all the things he has done. But he has. And in order for another potential person of his character doing the same thing in the future, we have to prosecute him. I absolutely
Exactly.
think
This will be
he
the
needs to be
template.
investigated in detail, and if
Yeah.
evidence is there, he should be prosecuted.
Well, yeah, you retweeted Jim Sciutto, who said this disturbing standard is now set for losing presidents. Claim fraud without basis, refuse to concede, attack state election officials, pressure state legislatures, challenge in court. Even when all fails, senators from your party will join you. I mean, this is nothing less than sedition that they are engaging in.
The
And,
last point you
you know,
mentioned is the worst.
and
Last
you, by the
point
way,
was
thank
how
you, because
many-
your job is always to calm us down. You said for all those who are worried about Congress on January 6th, relax. There is no evidence of fraud except by Trump voters, so none can be presented. A majority of both House and Senate must uphold an objection for it to prevail. Fair-thinking Republicans, all Democrats will vote no. Relax, the facts are clear. And even you talking about the vice president welcoming these efforts, you said this will fail also because there is no evidence. But it is just exhausting, isn't it?
I think the number of members of Congress, Senate and House, who are willing to put forth a phony challenge is alarming. But I do want people to be calm because the way it works, there is a vote in each separate House. So the Senate would vote whether to confirm any objection, and the House would vote. That requires both houses to approve the challenge in order for it to have any meaning. And there's no chance that the House of Representatives will vote that way. There is, unfortunately, a chance that the Senate could. But I believe that we have enough senators that it will not get to a majority in the Senate. I don't think Romney will vote for it. I'm hopeful that maybe Collins won't, and that could, prevent a majority voting that way. They only have 50 senators, and actually they may only have 49 because I believe Perdue's term is up and he can't vote.
That's
so that
correct.
Means it's 48-49 right now, and there are 2 vacancies. Well, I guess 1 vacancy, the Perdue vacancy.
Jill, as a prominent attorney, I often wonder what you think of, I don't know, Louis Gohmert's lawsuit being thrown out by a Trump judge to sue Pence to... And Roger Stone said he plans to file a lawsuit against the Department of Justice and Bill Barr. He said the terms of my pardon allow me to sue the Department of Justice, Bob Mueller, James Comey, John Brennan, Rod Rosenstein. And in fact, I'm going to add Bill Barr to the lawsuit, and I will handle his cross-examination personally. How far in crazy town are we exactly, legally?
I wish I had a good enough and strong enough analogy, because we're way past crazy town. It's absurd to think that this is a member of our Congress.
Yeah.
It lowers the standards to a point that is absurd. At first, it sounded like Pence was rejecting this absurd idea.
Right.
And now he's saying he welcomes the objection. And so it's just more proof that we have to live until noon on the 20th until we're free of this nonsense.
Exactly.
It's very, very alarming that 74 million people voted for Trump, and that a majority of those people, up to 70 or 80% of those voters, think the election is fraudulent. And I think we need to start focusing on how do we communicate facts and truth to them. And just my research on Ruby Freeman shows me that it is almost impossible, because they are reading the things I did not click on that were clearly from right-wing websites that are propagating all this falseness. And I think that's alarming. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, it is. We have a lot to, I would say un-F, but I don't have my bleep button.
But there are still a lot of crimes that he committed that are even unrelated to this. Crimes he committed before he took over the presidency. Crimes he committed during the presidency. There are state crimes. The Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, the DA, Cyrus Vance Jr., all have cases pending that
Jill,
could be brought quickly.
It Isn't that the main thing you take away from this call is how he knows that and how unbelievably desperate he sounds and ridiculous and just completely crazy. I mean, it just is an extraordinary hour and 6 minutes to think this guy still has the nuclear codes and knows he's going to prison. It's like whenever,
and could
2
give
weeks.
them away at any time.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing. But keep in mind that even if he cannot overturn the election, but let's say hypothetically he had actually won, which he clearly didn't, the states can proceed anyway. There is nothing preventing the states from indicting a sitting president. Frankly, in my view, the Office of Legal Counsel is wrong, their opinion, and even a sitting president could be indicted by the federal government.
Yep.
But that's unrealistic because the federal government is controlled by him, so it's not going to happen.
Jill, I needed you this morning. I love you. Thank you.
I love you. I wish you good health and quick return to being able to be out there again.
Thanks, honey.
And call anytime you want to be cheered up because I'm still optimistic. We're going to make it through till the 20th, and he's going to be gone, and all of his enablers are going to have to rethink what they have done.
Yeah, I was almost out of 2020, and then like Carrie's hand grabbed my ankle from the grave of 2020. So I was almost hopeful. But 2020 wasn't done with us. But we're in it together.